part of a brain that is medulla oblongata. Now medulla oblongata, if you take, this is what is said to be as a medulla oblongata. This one is medulla oblongata. Now this medulla oblongata, it is a part of hindbrain or Rhombencephalon. This medulla oblongata which is there, it will be present in the posterior cranial fossa. Posterior cranial fossa. Fully under the shelter of part of the meninges, that is a part of a dura known as tentorial cervical. Tentorial cervical. Now this medulla oblongata, when you view it from front, it will be looking like this. So it is almost piriform in shape. This you can say medulla oblongata starts from lower border of pons, that is keeping in front and above, known as pons, or it continues as a lower border of the pons. This medulla oblongata, as it runs, behind and below, it will be continuing as the water that of the spinal cord. The medulla oblongata will be going to end at the water that of the, where you can say, basilar part of the water, that of the occipital bone, where that foramina magnum will be present. That is nothing but the water that of the first First, cervical spinal nerve. Which is present at the upper surface of atlas or cervical vertebrae first, that is the upper surface. It ends. Keeping in front what is said to be as dens of the axis and keeping behind the posterior arc of atlas. So this is what the thing. Now this medulla oblongata, it is completely covered by. From all the way, from all the sides. That is what is said to be as the outer endosseal layer of the water, that of the dura mater, as well as it will be covering the water, that of the meningeal layer of the dura mater, or the inner layer of dura mater, and you will be having here the space, extradural space, dural space, then it is also covered by what is said to be as the arachnoid matter, and it is also having what is said to be as the water subdural space, and it covers very in the water, close in contact with the water, a surface of, as well as the border of the medulla oblongata from all the way. Very much it is delicate, thin. This layer which is covering that medulla oblongata surface is called as the pia mater. This is called as the what? Arachnoid matter. Then you will be having a space between the water arachnoid and the water, that of the pia, is called as what is said to be as a sub arachnoid space. Then you have got the water at the point where the medulla oblongata begins. You have got the water from cisterns are there. Now that is called as fontano medullary cistern, which is called as superior medullary cistern. It is a collection of the water, that of the, where you can see blood vessels. Now these collections of the blood vessels, they are there in the subarachnoid space, as well as it is covered by the water, that of the pia mater. Then you will be having at the water lower part here. There are the other systems in the water that of the subarachnoid space. The space between the water arachnoid and the pia there. That is called the inferior medullary system. Maybe that is also said to be as a what? Cerebello medullary systems. Here also you have got the what cluster of all tough convolutions of blood vessels, arteries and the veins, which will be there in the subarachnoid space, and that is covered by the what pia matter. Now this you can say medulla oblongata, which will be there here. It forms above and behind, but below and in front to the what that of the you can say medulla oblongata posterior surface and the anterior surface of the what that of the you can say cerebellum has got the what that of the one small gap. That gap is called as the what fourth ventricle of the brain. It is a cavity. The meaning of my saying is now here the medulla oblongata posterior part and the what anterior part of the water cerebellum related to the water one cavity. That cavity is called as the what fourth ventricle. Rather, to put it into another way, posterior surface of the medulla oblongata and the anterior surface of the what that of the cerebellum separated each other by means of the what one gap. That gap is called as a what fourth ventricle of the brain. Now there you will be going to have below and up, superior and inferior medullary systems are present, which will be the what tough convolutions of the water that of the blood vessels, arteries and the veins, which will be present in the water that of the subarachnoid space. Now so that will be related to this. Now this you can say medulla oblongata, which is having a piriform shape. It has got the two ends. Now this end is called as the what upper end. Upper end may be going to said to be as a what rather antero superior end, while you have got the lower end or the inferior end. Now this inferior end may be going to said to be as posterior inferior end. Upper end will be the what much more you can say broader and wider, which will be related to lower border of the water that of the pons. Lower border of the pons. This is the pons. So this will be written. So this is the upper end of medulla oblongata or anterosuperior end. This thing will be related to the water as that upper end runs forwards and upwards, which will be further continuing as in connection with the water that of the lower border of the pons. That is also nothing but the part of the water that of the hindbrain or rhombencephalon. Now the lower end, which is much more narrow, and it will be going to direct backwards and downwards as far as the water that of the foramina magnum. Then this thing, when it reaches to the water that of the upper surface of the water that of keeping in front that of the dance of the water axis, keeping behind that of the posterior arc of the water, that of the atlas, where you can say first cervical spinal nerve or the suboccipital nerve starts. At that point, soon it becomes a water that of the where you can say spinal cord, which will be continuing into the water that of the vertebral canal. So this is. But one must remember here, this part of the water that of the medulla oblongata is completely covered by the water that of the you can say the entire you can say meninges, that is outer is called as a what endosteal layer, which has been already talked, and the space. Then you will be going to get the water that of the you can say meningeal layer of the dura mater and the water space, arachnoid matter and the space and the pia matter, then the subarachnoid space. But important thing, the endosteal layer, what it will be there, it will be arresting at the water that of the foramina magnum. It further cannot go. It further cannot go in front and behind. It is attached, arrests here. So once it is arrested, only the meningeal which will be going to continue into the water. Meninges of the spinal cord are the water that of you can say meningeal layer, arachnoid matter, pia matter, they will be going to continue. So this is what you will be having. But meningeal layer of the water and the water osteal layer of the water, that endosteal layer of the water that of the dura mater outer, it will be holding the water that of the you can say medulla oblongata, you can say totally on all sides, that of the water known as the water ligamentum denticulatum, it will be attached. So medulla oblongata should not fall down into the water vertebral canal. And even the water that of the you can say the periosteal layer of the water that of the you can say that spinal cord, which will be the water, rather what we say as a what the covering of that of the vertebral canal, that will be also giving rise to a water that of the you can say ligaments, which will be attaching to the water circumference of the intervertebral foramina known as a water. Those are also called as the ligamentum denticulatum. So the spinal cord will be not going to drop into the vertebral canal. So that is what you will be getting. Now with having that, now you have got the two ends are two for spinal cord. One is upper end, that will be there here, and you have got the lower end, that will be there here. You have got the surface now. Now those surfaces are the what you will be seeing now. This thing totally is the water. Surfaces are two. Those are anterior surface or inferior surface, then posterior surface, or this is called as superior surface. Superior surface is this, from this point to this is the posterior, this is cerebellum, but this is the whole thing, posterior superior surface, or you can say posterior surface. So this one is said to be as is for pons, only for this. This is pons. Okay. So now this pipe is said to be as the anterior surface or antero-inferior surface. Now once you have got all these things, apart from that, you have got the two lateral surfaces, that is the right lateral surface and the left lateral surface. Lateral surface, right and left. So these are the things. Now after having had this, you should know about the what its dimensions. The length of from here to here, length is 3 centimeter. 3 centimeter, that is the longitudinal distance. Longitudinal distance, or you can call it as the length. Its you can say breadth at the broadest part near the upper end being 2 centimeter. It is what breadth at broadest part. Broadest. Then it's an anteroposterior distance. Anteroposterior distance is 1.5 centimeter. It's an anteroposterior distance. Anteroposterior distance. So this is what you will be going to get into. So these are the things you have to deal about in detail. So what is that upper end has been finished here. What is that lower end is finished. So ends are over in my talk. Only it is remained in the surface and these surfaces. And these surface what it has got. Or its base. On its surface with relations. So this thing we will talk in detail tomorrow along with the internals. And other things if possible. Thank you that what you have got the silently you will be hearing a lecture on the topic so called Medulla Oblongata. Thank you one and all.